Why do people only focus on self-improvement when they're unhappy? Imagine you're Michael, a 30-year-old office worker in Chicago. Every day, Michael wakes up, drives to work, clocks in, then heads home to watch basketball on ESPN or scroll through Instagram. He's got a small apartment in the suburbs, a car payment, and a few buddies he hangs out with on weekends. Michael's life isn't bad, but it's not exactly remarkable either. One day, he gets an email from an old friend. Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions? That question hits him like a punch to the gut. Michael looks back and realizes he has no big dreams, no clear goals, just existing. Have you ever stopped to think, when was the last time you truly changed? Was it when you landed a big promotion? Or was it when you hit rock bottom, lost a job, went through a breakup, or faced a failure? We don't really grow when we're happy. We grow when we're in pain. But why? Why do we only chase self-improvement when life gets rough? This video isn't about fluffy motivational quotes. It's about the truth. It's about how pain, whether you like it or not, becomes the most powerful catalyst for transformation. Renowned speaker Tony Robbins once said, "People only change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing." Think about it, when you're stuck in a dead-end job, a toxic relationship, or a body that makes you feel insecure. You only take action when you can't take it anymore. But do we really have to wait for that moment? According to research from Stanford University, our brains are wired to stick to what's familiar, our so-called comfort zone. But when we face an emotional shock, like loss or failure, our brain kicks into fight or flight mode, forcing us to act. That's why pain is often the strongest driver of change. Today, we're going to explore why people only grow when they're unhappy, and more importantly, how you can start changing now, before life forces you to. Part 1, The Illusion of Comfort. When things in life are fine, we stop. We don't question. We don't doubt. We don't grow. We call it peace. But in reality, it's intentional stagnation. Meet Jake, a 32-year-old salesman in Atlanta. Every day, Jake drives his SUV to the office, works a solid 9 hours, then comes home to play Call of Duty or binge Netflix. His paycheck covers rent, dinners at Applebee's, and the occasional football game ticket. Jake's life isn't bad, but it's not memorable either. One day, at a company barbecue, his co-workers share stories of running the Boston Marathon or launching successful startups. Jake realizes he has nothing to say. No dreams, no achievements. He looks in the bathroom mirror and asks himself, what have I done with the last 5 years? Jake's story isn't unique. Meet Emily, a 28-year-old marketing coordinator in Seattle. She has a decent job at a tech company, a cute apartment near Pike Place Market, and a crew she meets for brunch on weekends. But at a personal development workshop, Emily realizes she's been saying no to opportunities, passing on a big project because she feared failing, skipping graphic design courses because she thought, I'm fine as is. Emily's life isn't bad, but she's holding herself back. Why do we do this? According to psychologist Daniel Kahneman, our brains operate on a principle of energy conservation. Change, whether it's hitting the gym, learning a new skill, or quitting a familiar job, requires 10 times more mental energy than sticking to old habits. That's why we choose YouTube over jogging, or a safe job over chasing a passion. But here's the real danger: staying in your comfort zone too long makes you lose the ability to adapt to big changes. Your brain gets stuck in a state of homeostasis, repeating the same days, months, years. Pause for a second and ask yourself, are you living in the illusion of comfort? Are you repeating the same day, week, year without moving forward? If you can't remember the last time you tried something new, like signing up for a class, running a 5K, or starting a blog, chances are you're stuck. Part 2, Pain is the ultimate catalyst. We start caring about our health, After the doctor warns us about high cholesterol, we learn to love ourselves. After being rejected, we hustle. After losing everything, I was in love with a girl for 7 years. We met in college, dreaming of a future together, a house in the suburbs, kids, trips across Europe. But I got too comfortable. I didn't learn, didn't grow, didn't ask if I was becoming the best version of myself. One day, she said, "I don't feel anything anymore." Those words cut like a knife. I was shattered. But that shock woke me up. I looked back and realized, I didn't just lose her, I lost myself. I'd spent 7 years trying to please someone else, not building who I could be. That pain changed me. I started reading self-help books, hitting the gym 4 days a week, and signed up for a leadership skills course. Not to win her back, but to prove to myself that I was worth loving, starting with me. Pain isn't just my story. Take J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. Before fame, she was a single mom in Edinburgh, living on welfare, rejected by 12 publishers. The pain of rejection and poverty pushed her to keep writing. She once said, "Hitting rock bottom gave me the strength to rebuild my life. Without those dark days, we might not have Harry Potter." Why is pain so powerful? Research from the University of Michigan shows that emotional pain, like a breakup or failure, activates the same brain regions as physical pain, like the prefrontal cortex and amygdala. That's why rejection feels like a literal punch. But here's the cool part, pain also triggers your brain's learning mode. It forces you to question, problem solve, and grow. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth. After hardship, many people don't just recover, they become stronger, more creative, and clearer about their purpose. But here's the lesson, pain isn't the enemy. It's the toughest teacher you'll ever have. But you don't have to wait for it to knock. You can learn from stories like mine, like J.K. Rowling's, and start acting before life makes you. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt pain? And what did it teach you? Part 3, the cost of waiting. Most people don't change because they're not forced to. They procrastinate. They say someday, later, when I have time. But later rarely comes. Meet Robert, a 50-year-old engineer in Denver. As a young man, Robert dreamed of being a musician, strumming his guitar in local bars. But he told himself, "I'll chase that dream when my kids are grown." Years passed, consumed by work, raising 2 kids, and paying off a mortgage. When his kids graduated college, Robert looked around and saw he was still in the same old office, his guitar collecting dust in the corner. He told me, "I wish I'd started sooner, even if it was just 1 song a week." Robert didn't just lose time, he lost faith in his ability to do something extraordinary. Robert's story isn't unique. Meet Jessica, a 25-year-old college grad in Boston. She wanted to learn coding to break into tech, but she kept saying, "I'll do it later, when I have more time." 2 years later, Jessica's still in a dead-end admin job. She scrolls LinkedIn, seeing classmates land jobs at Google or Amazon, and wonders, why didn't I start sooner? Why do we procrastinate? Psychologist Timothy Pitchell says procrastination isn't just laziness, it's a defense mechanism. When you say later, you're dodging fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment. But what's the cost? A study from Carleton University found that procrastinators are less happy and more prone to depression. Every time you put something off, you're not just losing time, you're losing confidence in yourself. Philosopher Benjamin Franklin said, "Many people die at 25, but aren't buried until 75. If you don't live fully, chasing what you want, you're letting your life slip away in regret." Think about one thing you've been saying later to. Is it learning to code? Writing a book? Starting a fitness routine? Now ask yourself, if you keep waiting, what will you lose in 5 years? 10 years? Part 4, proactive growth instead of waiting for pain. Instead of waiting for life to teach you a lesson, You can train yourself first. You can create challenges, hit the gym, meditate, read books, learn a new skill, not because you're in crisis, but to avoid ever getting there. Meet Kenji, a 35-year-old banker in San Francisco, of Japanese descent. When he was laid off during a company restructure, Kenji spiraled into depression. He felt worthless, directionless. One day, he decided to try something small. Every morning, he woke up at 5 a.m., took a cold shower, meditated for 15 minutes, and wrote down 3 daily goals. He called it his Ice Bucket Challenge. The cold water snapped him awake, and meditation brought back his focus. Within 6 months, Kenji not only overcame depression but became a life coach, helping hundreds of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs build success habits. Kenji says, "The cold water didn't just wake me up, it reminded me I could handle anything." Kenji's story isn't one of a kind. Meet Sarah, a 40-year-old mom in Austin, Texas. She was exhausted from her office job and raising 2 kids. Instead of waiting for a health scare, Sarah challenged herself: 30 minutes of walking around her neighborhood each day, reading 10 pages of a self-help book, and journaling her thoughts. A year later, Sarah was not only healthier but launched a podcast about personal growth, inspiring thousands of women across the US. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. Start with the 1% challenge. Dedicate just 1% of your day, about 15 minutes, to something new. Maybe it's yoga, learning a Spanish phrase, or writing down your goals. Research from University College London shows it takes just 66 days to make a small habit stick. Try it today. Pick one small thing and commit to it for 7 days straight. For example, if you want to get fit, start with a 10-minute walk around the park. If you want career growth, watch a 15-minute TED Talk. Small but consistent, that's the key. Why does proactive growth work? A Harvard study found that people who maintain small daily habits, like meditation or exercise, are 40% better at handling stress than those who don't. You're building a mental armor, ready for any challenge life throws at you. Ask yourself, what's your 1% challenge going to be today? Part 5, How to Keep Growing Without Pain. Self-improvement isn't just about surviving pain. It's about connecting to something bigger, not just losing weight, learning skills, or making money, but becoming the person you want your kids to look up to. The person you're proud to see in the mirror each morning. I used to weigh 200 pounds and got called big guy by friends. I tried losing weight, but every failure made me feel worse. I was working out to avoid being judged, to get approval. Then I shifted my goal. I wanted to be healthy to play basketball with my son, to avoid the heart disease that took my dad. I started jogging around my neighborhood, not to look like a fitness model, but to feel strong in my own body. A year later, I was down 45 pounds, but more importantly, I loved myself more than ever. Every morning, looking in the mirror, I no longer saw a failure. I saw someone fighting for himself. Meet David, a 45-year-old banker in New York. He used to work just to pay bills. No passion. One day, his 10-year-old daughter asked, "Dad, do you love your job?" That question hit hard. David decided to study personal finance, not just for a promotion, but to teach his daughter how to manage money. Now, David's not only a top performer at work but a role model, speaking at schools about financial literacy. How do you keep growing without pain? Try these 3 steps. Find your bigger why. Ask yourself, who do I want to be for the people I care about? Maybe a dad who's healthy to set an example for his kids. Build a system. Don't rely on motivation, create habits. Set an alarm for 6 a.m. to jog, or read 10 minutes every night. Celebrate small wins. Every time you hit a goal, reward yourself: a Starbucks latte, a movie night. It ties growth to joy. A Stanford study shows that people who tie their goals to personal values, like family, health, or self-respect, are 3 times more likely to stick with habits long-term. Today, write down one bigger reason to grow. Not because you're scared of failing, but because you want to be someone you're proud of. Share it with a friend or post it on X with #selfgrowthjourney. You'll be amazed to see you're not alone. Conclusion. Today, we've talked about why pain is often the spark for change. But you don't have to wait to crash. You can break free from the illusion of comfort, learn from others' struggles, and start growing proactively, because you deserve to be your best self. Take Ashley, a 27-year-old from Los Angeles. She used to think she wasn't good enough for anything big. After watching a motivational YouTube video, Ashley started small, 20 minutes a day learning graphic design on Skillshare. 2 years later, she's a full-time freelancer, working remotely while traveling across Asia. She says, "I didn't wait for life to force me to change. I chose to change because I wanted a life worth remembering." You don't need to hit rock bottom to start over. You don't need rejection to learn to love yourself. You don't need to crash to rise up. Tony Robbins said, "If you're not growing, you're dying." But the best part? You don't have to wait for pain to evolve. Right now, grab a piece of paper and write down one thing you want to change. It doesn't have to be huge, just a small step. Maybe it's a 10-minute run, reading a book chapter, or telling yourself, "I'm enough." Commit to it for 7 days. And if you want, share your journey on X with #selfgrowthjourney. We'll evolve together, not because of pain, but because we're worth it. Start now.